My name is Paul Anacarico, and in this video I'm going to be talking about tiered activities for a student who has been diagnosed with ADHD. Tomlinson defines a tiered activity as a way for all students to focus on essential understandings and skills at varying levels of complexity. This means that the focus of a lesson or activity is the same for all students, but the ways in which students access the materials in the lesson is going to be different for everyone. This way, students will receive materials and instruction that will allow them to be successful because the one-size-fits-all approach simply does not work with students with varying academic and cognitive abilities within the same classroom. By using this approach, all students will receive challenging instruction. Next, I'm going to give a brief overview of my lesson and how using a tiered activity will help my student succeed in the classroom. In my lesson, students will be reading a chapter in the book Ripley's Believe It or Not that is about peculiar places. One of my learning targets is for students to be able to distinguish a peculiar place from what would be considered a normal place. As an anticipatory set, I'm showing a quick 2-minute YouTube video that shows various pictures of peculiar things in the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in Times Square. When developing a tiered activity, there are 6 steps to look at. First is to select an activity organizer. In my lesson, I'm going to require the student to use a KWL, or Know, Want to Know, Learn chart, to write what they know about peculiar places and what they want to know about them. Using examples from the anticipatory set will be encouraged if students are struggling to come up with ideas of their own. Tier 2 is thinking about students and their interests, talents, and readiness for the activity and lesson that is planned. I know my student likes baseball. There is an entire chapter in the Ripley's Believe It or Not book devoted to sports, and peculiar facts about baseball is a big part of the chapter. To evoke his interest, I will read a couple pre-selected paragraphs about these peculiar facts. This will hopefully engage the student in the book as a whole and allow for greater student interest. Tier 3 is creating activities for students that allows them to use key skills to understand a key idea. In this case, it's using literal and inferential thinking to answer questions that come right from the text, and also use prior knowledge to assist in answering questions. Tier 4 looks at the complexity of a lesson. I would grade this lesson at a medium complexity because students will be using technology, literal information, and inferential information to answer questions. Tier 5 backs up Tier 4 in the sense that it's looking at the complexity of materials. Again, the use of a smartboard will be used. Students have used them in the past, so it is something that they are familiar with, as is the format of the questions they will be asked. Tier 6 is answering a question at the end of a lesson to demonstrate if the student knows the difference between a peculiar place and a normal one. In my lesson, the student will be looking at 2 pictures of a house. One picture is of your normal everyday house, and the other is a house that looks like an airplane. The student will be looking at both pictures and writing a sentence about why the picture that looks like a plane is peculiar. The second learning target that I'm using is the use of the smartboard to answer questions in a whole group format. Students will have opportunities to answer questions from their packets and then come to the board to answer and read their question to the class as a whole. This helps the student with ADHD because they're able to move around the classroom and not be expected to sit for 40 minutes straight. It also helps with social skills by facing peers in front of the classroom and reading and answering questions. This concludes my video, and I want to thank you for viewing it.